The best exercise to turn your listening and reading skills into speaking and writing skills. A lot of you guys probably learn quite often great new words that are not commonly used. But you and I both know that after a few months, you are probably going to forget most, if not all, of those words if you do not learn how to apply them properly as soon as you learn them. This is because your brain has two different libraries. It has a passive library, which is something that I think all of you guys watching this video have, which is your passive vocabulary that contains thousands of sophisticated words that you can vaguely understand if you hear them. And then there's an active library that consists of your active vocabulary, is what most of you guys struggle with. Most of you guys only have a few hundred words that you simply use every single time that you speak in English. And by having a very limited active vocabulary, it's honestly one of the biggest things that's holding most of you guys back from getting from the intermediate levels of English up to the advanced levels of English. Advanced English speakers at the C1 and C2 level have a broad range of active vocabulary that they can actually use in real conversations and real scenarios. But the good thing is that there is one simple exercise that will help you bridge the gap between your passive vocabulary and your active vocabulary. In this video, I'll show you how to turn your observation skills, being reading and listening, to application skills, being speaking and writing. You have to be careful. You really need to be careful of the trap of passive vocabulary versus active vocabulary, especially at the intermediate level. To illustrate this, I had someone who reached out on Instagram looking for help with their English. And of course, it was the classic case of I can understand English pretty well, but I'm still really not good at speaking English. For the sake of this video, let's call her Mary. Now, Mary did an amazing job of developing a huge passive vocabulary. She knew words that I didn't even understand. She could understand stuff that I couldn't as a native English speaker. But of course, she could not speak confidently due to a couple of things, which is her active vocabulary was pretty limited. She just would repeat and reuse the same words for everything she said. And then also her pronunciation. She struggled to pronounce a lot of these words comfortably in a real, spontaneous conversation. So the things she did really well are she read and listened to tons of English media. She really just listened to English media with subtitles. So she practiced her reading and listening at the same time. And she was able to see the context of how the words were used. Now, what she did very badly was that she really didn't apply her speaking skills throughout any part of this process. She would go through many drills of just consuming and consuming and consuming media like a sponge, but she never or very rarely ever used the shadowing technique. She rarely ever practiced expressing herself on her own after watching a video. She would never write out her thoughts. She was just really good at absorbing the information, but she didn't even realize how little she was actually applying it. So the moral of the story is you need to work on your application skills as much, if not more, than your observation skills. If you're somebody who does both, congratulations, you are way better than the average English learner, because most English learners, I would say 80% or more of English learners, gravitate towards working on their listening and reading because it's easy to do. It's so easy to find English media on the internet to consume, but they really rarely, if ever, work on their application skills proactively just because it's unnatural. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel comfortable. Whereas if you're just watching some video on YouTube or social media, it's easy. If you have to actually train your mouth to make unnatural sounds, that's difficult. So that's really where the problem lies and why a lot of you guys are just stuck at the intermediate level. And the solution to this is just the sentence alchemy method, or the COV method. COV simply stands for capture, own, and vocalize. That's it. So let's break it down. When I say capture, that really means that when you're learning new words, and this is something that Mary did really well, you want to always learn them with the correct context around them. For example, You would be completely wasting your time just by reading a dictionary and just learning new words individually out of a dictionary or off of a list or something like that. However, if you're watching a video, let's say on YouTube, and you're using subtitles and you see a new word and you see how it's being applied in a real sentence with a scene acting it out on the video, then that is really effective because you're actually learning the word in context. This is how you want to learn new words for the most part. Even more so than reading, I would encourage you to do it through realistic videos because it'll actually show you a full context of how the words are being used. And the next part of the COV method is to own. So there are two simple things that you need to do every time you learn a new word that is not commonly used. So let's say you learn what the word meticulous means today. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to pronounce the word meticulous 5 times. Literally say it out loud 5 times, just like this: meticulous, 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 meticulous. Now, by just doing the action of saying the word out loud, just by physically doing it, it is already going to be 80% more probable that you're going to remember that word and how to pronounce it. Versus if you just said it in your head and you never actually applied it out loud, there's probably closer to a 20% chance that you're going to remember that word over the long run. You'll remember roughly 20% of all the things that you read and listen to, and you will remember around 80% of all the things that you physically do and physically experience. Now, after you cement the word in your head by physically saying it out loud 5 times, I want you to literally ask yourself, who do I know who is meticulous? Or what task do I do that requires me to be meticulous? Literally ask yourself questions like these so that you can really understand what the word means in context. And now I want you to make up 5 sentences to actually apply the word. By doing this, you're really, really going to get a good grasp for what the word means truly, and you're really going to be able to wrap your head around it and retain it in your active vocabulary. For example, 5 different uses of the word meticulous in a sentence could be: I am very meticulous when I am proofreading work that I've written. I am very meticulous when I am creating content for social media. I'm very meticulous when I'm grading people's English level tests. I'm very meticulous when I go outside in the way that I dress, depending on the weather. I'm very meticulous in the way that I set up this camera on this tripod so that it's looking at me from a certain angle. There you go. I just made up 5 random sentences using the word meticulous. And now, if you do the same thing, it's really going to help you wrap your head around how you can actually apply it based on the way that you speak, on the way that you think, and the ways that are relevant to your specific lifestyle and what's around you in the room that you're in right now. Now, this isn't as easy as just sitting back and listening and watching YouTube videos or English media, but that's why that the average learner is stuck at the intermediate level. That's why the average learner does average things and gets average results. If you want to get above average results, if you want to increase your level of English faster than 80+% of all the other English learners, you're going to have to do stuff like this. You're going to have to do stuff that doesn't exactly seem natural at first. You're going to have to apply your skills if you want to be good at speaking and writing and communicating in English. And the last part of the COV method is to vocalize. Now, you already learned how to vocalize it in order to own it initially. Say it out loud at least 5 times and think of 5 different sentences to use with this word. Now, you want to make sure that you also do it several other times out loud, not just out loud, but also written as well. Now, to vocalize, this simply just means using the word aloud as much as possible. As we just discussed, after you have thought of 5 different ways to use the word, don't just write it, don't just type it, also speak it. Make sure you're using your mouth to physically say it aloud several times. As mentioned, this is by far the most important part of the COV method. This is the most important part that will literally make the whole difference between whether you ever become a fully fluent English speaker or not, whether you speak broken English for the rest of your life or whether you become well spoken in English, whether you will speak with a heavy accent or whether you will be well spoken and easy to understand by native English speakers in the English language. If you take anything away from this video, take away that you do need to actually apply your skills physically with your mouth, physically. You absolutely need to get the reps in. If you've been watching me on YouTube for a while, you know I like to compare this with learning how to play an instrument for the first time or learning how to shoot a basketball or kick a soccer ball for the first time. It will feel very unnatural at first, but once you've done it hundreds of times or thousands of times or tens of thousands of times, it will feel supernatural. It'll be like second nature and you won't even think about it. You'll just do it naturally. It'll feel completely normal to you. That's what it takes to become a fluent English speaker. That's what it takes to increase your level of English by increasing your level of communication through writing and speaking. So, to recap, do not get trapped by learning a ton of passive vocabulary like Mary did and not learning enough active vocabulary like most English learners do. In order to avoid this, the solution is the sentence alchemy method or the COV method, which just stands for capture, own, and vocalize. Capture vocabulary into your passive vocabulary, own it by applying it and making it into your active vocabulary. And then, of course, vocalizing it, physically practice pronouncing it, saying it out loud so that it really cements in your head and you do not forget how to actually apply it in real ways that are unique to you specifically. Now, if you found this video useful, be sure to like the video to let the YouTube algorithm know that this type of content is useful for other English learners around the world. And be sure to comment down below, letting me know where you're from and what your native language is. Always curious to know where you guys are watching this video from. Now you understand the importance of actually applying the vocabulary words that you learn. Also, keep in mind that there are some common grammar mistakes that intermediate English learners tend to make. If you want to learn how to avoid these very common grammatical errors at the intermediate level, be sure to watch the next video on the screen.